So welcome, Ultimate DIYers. Today we're going to talk about basic painting tools. You have pro tools and you have DIY tools, and then you kind of have a mixture of the two. We're not going to talk about the pro tools today, like the airless paint sprayers. I'll have another video about that. We're going to talk about you as a homeowner or a beginning handyman. What do you have to have? First thing you really are going to need is your paint, of course, and I'll have a whole episode just on different types of paint. But I brought this out to show you one of the very first tools, and you'll get this free at Home Depot. You can use a screwdriver, but if you're at a Home Depot, Lowe's, they generally just give these away. They have a bucket of them. And they'll simply slide around the lid and you bend backwards and pop it open. You'll keep doing that till you have it off. Some of these have a special fitting that they'll give you at Home Depot in these new buckets, and you can put it on here, open up this top, and you can pour from the bucket. I tend to not use those very much. Another thing you'll get free at Home Depot, or big box stores usually, but I know Home Depot has it, it's actually on the stick, is stir sticks. And there's multiple uses for the stir sticks besides just stirring the paint, and I'll have a little episode on that as well. There's a few tricks with these, that I use these for a lot of other things as well. And some of the basic, like your PPE, I like the throwaway gloves, and I like the gloves that are a little bit more permanent depending on what I'm doing. Most of the time I'm going to use these though when I'm painting, just to keep the paint and all off of my hands. As you can see, I get it all over my shirts. The next major thing that you're going to need, of course, is your brushes. Now they have brushes that are squared off, and you can get them into I believe 3.5, 4 inch widths, really large. I don't ever use those because I very seldom am going to paint large surfaces with a brush. These are generally used more for painting around outlets, around trim, painting the trim itself, things like that. And that's why I like a good chiseled end, so that when you're painting, you can kind of pull your paint, and you'll pull it across this very tip, and you can work things in around with that tip and be pretty precise. I bought this one today just to kind of show you how it works, and I'll give you a close-up of this in a minute at the top of the screen. But it's a 2.5 inch angle, Teflon coated, and it's made for all paints. This is a great DIY brush. If you clean your brushes immediately after you use them, and you wet your brushes before you actually start to apply paint, these brushes will last virtually forever. I have this brush here. I've had this for, 4 or 5 years, and it still works and works really great. Now, if you're using oil-based paints, which not many people use oil anymore, almost everyone's using a latex. But if you use oil, there's a special way to clean it to keep them from being ruined. I'll go over that as well in a later video. The next thing you're going to do, a DIYer is probably going to pick up one of these little 8 inch or 9 inch rollers for your 8 or 9. But they slide off, and you can get them in different naps. This one is going to be about a 1/2 inch nap, and it's made more for rough surfaces. They're generally going to be 3/8. You go 1/2 inch, 3/4, depending on what surface. If you've got a heavy texture, you're going to use a heavier nap. And the thing that you will use after that is a good rolling pan, like so. And if you don't want to keep cleaning these pans, they have liners like these. To place them in, you'll be able to roll your paint. When you get done, throw the liner away. Now, one other thing I would suggest is get you some little bags, trash bags, the little pull string ones. When you get done at the end of the day, or even in between different paint coats and things like that, if it's going to be setting any length of time, you're going to want to open the bag up and place your pan in the bag with the paint on it. Get that in there, and you're going to want to just wrap it around really good and get the air out of it and now that's ready to use the next day. I don't use these smaller rollers all that often anymore. I tend to use the larger, which are going to be these. These are going to be, I believe they are 18 inches. 18 is kind of the norm. And they use a special system, which is what this is here. Now you're going to cover quite a bit more ground with one of these than you will one of the small ones. Here's a cheaper roller here. This is just a cheap plastic one. You can get these at the big box stores really cheap, but you can see the difference if you look at the size difference. You're pretty much double, very close to it. You're going to get a lot more ground with this a lot faster. Now, granted, I understand as a DIYer, you may not want to invest in this big system, so you're probably going to be with one of these. But if you're a aspiring handyman or someone who's wanting to branch out, this will definitely save you a lot of time. This would be one step under an airless sprayer. And a lot of times I use these because I don't want to get the spray all over. It's a delicate area. It may be just one big wall or one room where it just doesn't pay off for me to go ahead and get that airless sprayer out. The next thing you're going to need, well, actually, let me show you the bucket that this goes into. So instead of having that pan, it has a bucket that this is going to actually roll into. And the cool thing about this bucket is you have liners. So instead of a tray liner, you open these liners up and you will actually put a liner inside of it and you'll work inside that liner. At the end of the day, you'll pull that liner up, hold it tight at the top, nip the bottom of it, and you can let that paint run back into the can. If you're going to be painting the next morning, you just pull it up, tie it off with a little tie, and you're good to go. Open it up in the morning, put it back over the edges, and start right back up again. Big advantages to the bigger roller system. So if you're going to be doing a lot of painting, I would suggest spending the money and getting that. Another thing you're going to need, regardless of which roller system you're going to need, is a good stick to actually spread the paint. Now I like this one because it's short, it makes it really easy in tight spots, but if I have to go further, I can expand it out. So now I'm reaching a lot further. You can get cheaper sticks, and a lot of times they have just little plastic ends on them. Sometimes it's a little wood end, but they tend to strip out. And these are usually all the same. They're kind of a standard in the industry for painting. But I would, if you're going to do much painting, I would go with a better stick. Now, if you're going to only paint one wall, one room, and you don't plan on painting again for a year or two, by all means, get the cheaper sticks. So that being said, the other thing, when I'm doing brush painting, trim like this, there's several ways. You can make your own little cans and your own holders. You can buy these pre-made ones so that I can actually paint for this, and it has a good handle. I can carry it around, makes it nice for doing trim work. You even have magnets, so it'll hold your brush. And what's even better is you can buy the liners. So the liners will come in and out, and you can just throw the liner away at the end of the day. You can also use the same bags like you did for here, cover this up at the end of the day and have it ready to go the next morning. Just keep your brush wet and keep it inside the paint, unless you plan on washing the brush out periodically. If I've got a big job, I'll be going and washing these brushes out anyway. If it's a latex paint, it's just water. So you've got that method. The other method that you're going to have is you can buy these little cheap throwaway trays like this, and you can carry these around. They're fairly stable. The only problem I have, they're very lightweight, and if you hit them, you're going to knock them over. They don't tend to tip real easy, but if you have them on a ladder, it's pretty easy to do. And you can paint out of this just like normal. When you get done, throw it in the trash. And I believe these are like $1, $1.50 each. They're really cheap. They're not very expensive. But if you're going to do any at all, you buy this one time, and I can't remember what these run. They're probably like $10 or so, maybe a little bit more somewhere in that area. But then you buy the liners really cheap in packs of like 6 or 10, and this will last you in there forever. Now, one other type of brush I like to use if I'm doing a lot of door work and I'm not going to spray the doors. A lot of times I'll spray my doors. I'll pull them off, take them outside and spray them. If it's a flat paint and it's going to look okay just to roll it, it's one door, I may just roll it. And I'll use a foam roller. These are foam. And I'll use one of these little throwaway type buckets and I can roll it inside of here. Makes it pretty nice. I don't want to pull out a big rolling deal for that, and I want to put it in here and I want to be able to move it easily. This also works really good on the trim going around a room. A lot of times you're not going to want to spray that trim, especially if you've rolled everything. You're just going to want to put the paint on, and this will give you a nice smooth surface. This works well on cabinets too, by the way. And also, I've got this. I use this more. I hardly, if I have to use these small rollers, very seldom will I use the trays anymore. I tend to use more of this system. So you can wash this off. You buy the buckets for $5. You keep the bucket clean, it's great. They even have a liner that'll go in the bucket, by the way, which makes it really easy to get the paint back out and into the original containers again. But this just hangs on the side. You'll take your roller and you will, see if I can give you a better view, you will just roll the paint on your grate, and the excess paint will go through the grate, drip back down to the bottom. And you can even take this and put a trash bag over it at night and just leave your roller kind of setting in it, and you're good to go for the next morning. This is my preferred method if I'm using the smaller rollers. So really, the only other thing that you probably want is some rags. Now, if you're a DIYer, you may have a bunch of old rags or towels around that you want to use, or you can buy these at the big box store. Now, I tend to prefer these. They're more like they're a terry towel. They're kind of like the washcloths you'd use in the bathroom. They have a little bit of a rough surface on them, so they're really good for cleaning. And the nice thing about these is you can use them over and over. If you don't destroy them, take them, throw them in the wash, and you'll have them to use again. So I tend to buy a big bag of these, and they'll last me for 6 months. And I work every day in this type of an industry. So in a nutshell, those are the basics. There are a few other little tools that you can get, but this will get you through the majority of your DIY home paint project. You know, you may need things like a screwdriver to take off plates, maybe a screw gun if you want to speed that up a little, but you don't really have to have that. You're going to want plastics to wrap doors. You're going to want good tapes to actually painter's tape so that you can mask things off. There's certain little things that you can do. I mean, you could even get by without using the masking tapes if you're very delicate in your hand painting. So that's kind of why I don't really have it here. You'll probably want a caulk gun and caulking, because you're going to use that when you're painting a lot. But basics are just basics. Most of it is relatively cheap. A good scrape tool is really essential when you're working. And then you'll have things, if you're getting outside of the tools, you're getting more into just materials to make the job go better, but like muds and spackles. Spackles can be really great. But anyway, that wraps it up, and that's pretty much what you would need for basics. So there are other things that you can use that'll make the job go easier, and those will be in other videos. But this gives you some of the basic tools that you actually need to start getting the job done. But if you have gotten anything out of this video and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, because it really helps out the channel. Be sure you hit that like button and ring that little bell notification so you know about all of our next upcoming videos. Thank you for watching.